Hey everybody, it's Megan and Rebecca! Yay! We're here. Can you believe we're in the same room together? It's a Momentum with Megan show, our regular Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time show. So come on in. We're going to talk all about sales today. And I'm sure we're going to have a few crazy laughs and crazy stories because we have a lot of those to tell. So today's show is all about revving up your sales in your flagship group program and scaling it. Because if you're going to scale, sales is super duper important. And since Rebecca is visiting me, I thought we'd talk sales. So why don't you tell them a little bit about your background in sales?
Okay, I can do that.
And in this industry especially.
So I've been in the coaching industry since 2010, and I've been behind the scenes of 4 different multi-million-dollar companies. I've also coached many different women leaders into multiple 6 and 7 figures. So essentially what I do is I look at the operational system of the individual, the leader of the company. And then I look at the operational system of the business itself. And one of the things that I talk a lot about is sales psychology. And so when you learn sales psychology, you have the ability to kind of understand the operating system of the person that you're talking to.
Yep.
And really coming from an authentic place of not selling because you need to make a dollar, but selling and sharing and becoming from a place of service so that you can enrich someone's life and really see if it's a true, genuine fit. So I've had the privilege of being not only running my own coaching company all these years, but being behind the scenes of many different multi-7-figure companies and looking at their operational systems and selling. I've come up with my own sales methodology, as you know, which is really always about getting to the truth. And when your goal and your intention is to get to the truth, then you're only ever going to be of service.
Yeah. Hey, Allison. Allison Rose.
Hello.
Hi. So as we're talking about sales, if you have questions, pop those into the chat there. And Rebecca and I, why don't we kind of tell them how we met and just a little bit about our behind the scenes experience. You've had more behind the scenes experiences than I have with different companies. But I think that, and ask us a lot of questions because Rebecca and I have both worked behind the scenes of multi-million-dollar coaching companies. And I was never heavily involved with sales like you were, but I was also somewhat involved with the sales process and studying that and playing whatever role I did play in that. So we know what it takes behind the scenes of a mega coaching company to fill flagship coaching programs and to always be selling in those programs year round. So we met in 2013, one fateful March week in Santa Barbara, California. But Rebecca and I were both selected to be apprentices for someone who was our mentor at the time. Back in 2013, I think 150 people applied for that.
Yeah. And
I think 7 people were chosen. I think it was 7 of us were chosen for that. And we all descended upon Santa Barbara, California, and we had this week-long retreat. And we were actually supposed to brainstorm the program and map out the lot, all this stuff. We were literally helping our mentor create. She had vision casted the next thing that she was going to be creating in her business, and she knew it was going to be this coaching certification company, and it was going to be hundreds of people. And she brought together a group of apprentices, which you've got experience doing that too, to help create all of that and put it all together. Because to develop a flagship group coaching program, whether it's 6 months or a year, this one was a year at the time, it is a massive undertaking. It is not something you just throw together. It is not something that you just create one time and you never pay attention to it again. And you need an entire team behind you to really develop what I call a world-class flagship group coaching program. So we came to that retreat, and I will never forget. I don't even know what we were talking about. We were brainstorming what we were going to put in this program. And then all of us started bringing up our own stuff, our own stuff around money. And I remember our mentor kind of left the room, and she was like, what the heck am I going to do? I brought these apprentices here to create this program, and they're not even in a place where they can even develop this program for other people. So we literally got coached for a week. It was almost like therapy session circles in her living room. Literally, we were like a hot mess, but we all had our own business.
Yes.
Were you already making six figures?
No.
Okay.
I was only coaching for, I hit six figures that year, but I had been coaching for only just 3 years.
Okay.
I was still in the very beginning stages.
I had only been coaching for barely a year at that time. So that's how Rebecca and I met. This was in 2013, beginning of the year. And then Rebecca and I were actually the only two apprentices out of that whole group that were offered a job.
Yes.
And so she and I were both offered a part-time job. You were program director. I was certification director because it was a certification program. And you and I basically, we built out that whole thing together.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you were really playing the role of sales. So, and Rebecca and I have just stayed really close since then. How much did you close in sales for that particular company?
In 9 months, $1.2 million. And that was outside of what was happening with the Facebook ad stuff. Because back in 2014, 2015, if everybody remembers, there's been so many different waves in the coaching industry. And that was kind of the wave of getting Facebook ads at really low conversion rates and the dawning of storytelling as it pertains to Facebook ads.
Yeah. So where do you want to start?
I'm happy to start wherever.
Why don't let's start with this. Let's just dive right into objections. So, you've done probably multiple millions in sales for other companies when you add it all up. And you've had probably thousands of sales conversations at this point.
All over the globe.
And I mean, I know the programs you've sold have probably been from between like $7,500 all the way up to what, like $35,000 and everything in between. Okay, so let's talk about objections. And I remember one time you said to me, this was years ago when we were still working together, and you were like, there's only like 4 or 5 main objections. It's like you hear the same story from people. Once you've had so many conversations, you're hearing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yes, and regardless of education, vocation, and location.
Very cool. So talk about some of the common objections you hear that you've heard over the years. But then there's something that you said when you were introducing yourself, that it's all about psychology, and you're really speaking to someone's mindset and their belief system.
But you're speaking it to them from your own. And that's where, so one of my modern day sales methodologies that I talk about is sales mastery is self-mastery. So the more that you master yourself and do spiritual, personal, and, personal development, the more you have the ability to A, come without expectation and attachment, and B, really coming and being of service because you've done your own inner work. And this isn't about money for you. This is about service for you. So the common ones, as many of you know, are time, don't have enough time, or timing. This is not the right time. Let me wait till 2021 or whatever. Money, which is always an illusion. 98% of people that I've ever spoken to actually never had a money problem when there was a money objection present. 3 is the spouse conversation. I can't do this without my husband, or I need to ask my husband X, Y, and Z. And a most recent development one that I noticed over the past 3 to 4 years is I'm in another program.
Oh yeah. That's probably the number one objection I hear. I don't hear the money one at all, hardly at all. I never hear the husband one, ever. I don't know if I ever have. I hear predominantly, I'd say 85% of the objections I personally hear is I'm in another program, or I'm in 2 other programs right now. And because I'm in 2 other programs right now, I don't have time to dedicate to another program. Right. That's the biggest one I hear.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because take a look at the evolution of coaching. Like back in 2010, 2011, when you and I first started coaching, like there weren't 50,000 million trillion people out there rolling out of bed one day and seeing an ad that says you make $10,000 in 1 month and going, oh, I can do that too, when they don't even realize that that particular person only had one $10,000 month in their whole entire coaching career over 10 years or 5 years or whatever. So the vast majority of what people are seeing out there, it's bull crap. It's complete and total bull crap. And when you really get into the nuts and bolts, and I've had these thousands of conversations with people, so when you really get into the nuts and bolts with people on these intimate conversations, you find out that their husband makes multiple six figures, you find out they're still living in their parents' basement, or, you know, all kinds of things that, or it's a hobby, or, you know, some of the things I even saw during this whole pandemic was like people being like, you know, I'm a nurse, and I'm like, I thought you were a coach, like,
Yeah.
you know, like, well, hold on, what happened to the coaching industry thing? So that is a really important one to navigate to. And again, using this modern day sales methodology that I've created, what you have the ability to do is you're getting to the truth. So first and foremost, you're getting to the truth of what is even the problem for the person. So they're coming to you for a solution. Obviously, there's something about something you've shared, like what you teach in Momentum about your easy launch formula. It's repeatable. It makes your business run like a well-oiled machine very quickly. And she's saying it's a little bit echoey. We need to put a rug in here at some point.
I know.
But anyways, the point is that you really are evaluating what is true for them. So someone might come to you and say, you know, I can't fill my group coaching programs. And they might think that that's the problem, but the actual problem might be something completely different, like their mindset's in the toilet, or their messaging is in the toilet, or they don't even have a full one-on-one coaching practice. So how could they possibly start doing, or they think that they could possibly start filling group coaching programs. And so once you get to the truth of what the actual problem is, then the second thing is when the objection shows up is you're then uncovering whether that objection is even true. Because 9 times out of 10, the objection is the absolute reason why they should join your program.
Yep.
But again, if your agenda, right now in this modern day world that we're living in, this new awakened world, you cannot have a horrid agenda or a personal agenda. You cannot be out of energetic alignment with truth and authenticity. These are the things that I've always run my company from, a place of authenticity, honesty, and integrity. And if you do, people will smell it and they'll run. Mm-hmm. And so that, you know, that's where you have to really check yourself ahead of time. You have to really know your own psychology, and you have to get brutally honest with yourself. I mean, if you genuinely in the back, you're like trying to push this thing off to the side, like, how am I going to pay my mortgage, or I'm worried about my kids' private school tuition payment, or whatever else, that's going to be picked up on energetically. Every single person on the face of the planet is incredibly intuitive. It's not like a gift for someone. We all have that gift, and it's just to the degree in which that transparency and connection is there for people within their own selves. And it will always come through. And so really sitting back and coming from a place of service. But when this objection comes up, the first question to ask would be, so why are we on the phone if these other programs are getting you results that you desire? I mean, that's a genuine question. Like, why are you, something has prompted you to seek out another solution to your problem, AKA what I'm offering. That's what led you to reach out to me. And the second thing is that in all of the friends and colleagues and mentors that I've ever had, these people who are making like 3 million plus a year, they are in multiple programs. Mm-hmm. They are in multiple programs. I've always been in multiple programs. I've always had a personal coach. I've always been involved in business, some kind of business coaching. I believe personally, and I've always taken a stand for this, if you are in the coaching and consulting space and you do not if you're not currently investing in a coach or a coaching program, you're a hypocrite, and you need to stop selling everything all at once until you go sign up and get mentorship for yourself. We're all evolving, we're all growing, we're all changing at a way faster pace. In fact, I just posted this morning and it said there are decades that go by where nothing is happening, and there are weeks that go by where decades are happening, and that is a time that we're living in today. So now more than ever is a time for people to receive wise, phenomenal mentorship, and I think people have to be even more discerning now more than ever, because there's so much crap out there, or it's like nice and shiny and the pink dress in front of the Eiffel Tower. I've been watching Emily in Paris, can you tell?
Oh, I have too.
So good. So good. But anyone can pay $2,500 for a photo session. It doesn't mean that that person has a profit margin, because again, at the end of the day, the whole concept of, oh, I had $1 million launch, or I had $750,000 launch, that means absolutely nothing. I mean, that's one of the beauties of being behind the scenes of different companies, is no businesses or ever say every business is only as good as their tracking and their numbers, because without numbers, you don't know the truth. So that's something to think about too. If you're not tracking things and you don't know the truth in your own financial portfolio, how can you possibly get on a call with someone using this modern day sales methodology and get to the truth of the other person when you're not being truthful with yourself?
Yeah. So, okay, I think I have a hot topic that we can discuss. So, and I think this is still going to be about sales, because you just brought up something really important. And this is a question I get asked pretty often by clients. And it's, hey, Megan, what's your opinion or your philosophy on doing business in a more feminine way? Because I'm hearing a lot of coaches who have like this build a business a feminine way message. And it's like, just step back and let people come to you. And they're making millions of dollars. And their message is, you don't have to go after clients at all. Clients are just going to come to you and they're going to ask you to work with them. But clearly, if you're here in my community, I don't even use the word feminine in my branding or my messaging, because it's just not it's not the message I'm here to share with the world. And so I have a certain philosophy on the marketing message that someone is saying when they're saying that. And because we have actually been behind the scenes of a business where the message in the marketing was all about building a business a feminine way, I think what's so deceiving about that from these really big companies that have figured out a way to scale their business and scale their programs is they've got an army working behind them. And Rebecca and we've been part of that army before. So we know to the degree of spreadsheet tracking there is behind the scenes. We picked up the phone and dialed for dollars to fill live events and to fill programs. We would host, back then we called them preview calls on Instant Teleseminar, gosh, archaic. And we would go look at the list of all the people who were there live, and we would have their phone number. And we would call people. So there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes that I don't think anybody would put in the category. Well, nobody puts that in the category of doing business a feminine way. Like, we were cold calling, basically. Yeah. You do anything to fill your programs. So I'd love to hear, because you do talk about doing business the feminine way, at least more than I do. But I want you to talk about the reality of what is also going on behind the scenes of a business, so that you have got your systems in place, your structures in place, your foundations in place. You can't ignore those pieces. And we're talking about scaling here. So we're talking about your flagship group programs and scaling those, because if you don't ever get to a place where your business is scalable, you are simply just trading dollars for hours, and you are constantly having a sales conversation to fill a one-on-one coaching spot, and then you must show up and deliver that to earn the money that that person just exchanged with you. So I'd love to hear from your perspective. You've now seen behind the scenes of 4 multi-million-dollar businesses. Some of them do business the feminine way in their marketing message, but what do you have to have in place behind the scenes to actually scale your company?
All right, well, I have to first address the elephant in the room, and that is this. It is, dun, 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 drum roll. If you are thinking that the feminine way of doing business is waiting for people to come to you, or shifting your vibration and getting into the high level frequency, and trust me, I know all about frequency, because there's a brand new frequency healing device that we both got. That is what a mentor of mine calls hope and coincidence marketing. And you will not scale, you will not have high profit margins. That's how we were living when we first started our businesses. Remember, I'd be like, ooh, I had a $40,000 month. And then it was like, I had like 8 no $1,000 months.
Yeah. Oh, the number of people, like between the two of us, I mean, well, we both worked with over 1,000 clients at this point in some capacity. Yeah. Well over 1,000. And the thing that always would blow my mind is somebody would literally have a $30,000 month, and they would get to the end of the next month and they would email us and say, I don't even know how I'm going to pay my rent or pay my mortgage. And I'm like, what? Like, you just had a $30,000 month and we are now like 45 days later and you cannot pay your rent.
Yeah.
You can't pay your coaching bill this month. Like, what is happening?
And that's on a small scale. So here's the other aspect of this. If you don't really do your work, you know, I know a coach in the industry who was getting her electricity turned off at the very beginning of her coaching, just the same thing that you said. And then once that person was making multiple seven figures, they were still having trouble paying their bills. Their problems didn't go away. So as an outsider looking in or at the shiny surface, you think, oh, this person has it all together. They just went to Bali, or they have this multi-million-dollar house, or, you know, whatever it is. And the actual truth is that you really don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but you don't need to know. What you need to know is what's going on behind your closed doors.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I actually have a microphone.
Oh,
And I can't find a cord for it, which is why there's an echo.
That's
so
all right. You'll be fixing this down in the near future. But anyway, so the point is that, and you touched on this last time I was here, was we were doing those things, those more masculine type roles, if you will, the do, the generator type things.
Yeah. People used to ask us if we got our nails done in the office. And I was like, you think we're here getting our nails done in the office? I'm like, how about we work 60 hours a week?
Yeah, oh yeah. Or being on an international flight for like 10 or 20 hours, landing and hitting the ground running.
Oh yeah,
Sleep or no sleep.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
No, but so the point is that what you said, which was so well put, was we did those things so that the leader could be in position. So number one is you have to even know if you're leader material. You know, you need to know, and this is why I've done both. So I'm both, okay? I like to be part of what I call a healthy business ecosystem. That's what I teach my clients. But I also like to be the leader. So for me, it's important to have both. I can't just be in my office at home and that's it. I like that feminine collaboration. I like the supporting other business owners, brainstorming as a team, and as an entrepreneur, that's not something you generally get because we're in our own office space at home, right? Like we're not in a corporate office building. So the point is regardless of whether the person on stage, let's just call that person on stage the leader, is a male or a female, and I've worked behind the scenes of 2 female multi-7-figure companies and 2 male-owned multi-7 and 1 multi-8-figure business. And that person, whether we want to call it feminine or masculine, it's really insignificant. It's that person is allowed to be their full out, shining, God-given, brilliant self because they've put these structures in place to support themselves. And I know this firsthand because in 2013, right after we met, I went through a very welcomed but unexpected divorce. And we were in Paris at the time, and I had this like breakdown. And I had on the streets of Paris. It felt like I got a virtual punch from the universe right in the abdomen.
At least we had cheese and baguettes.
Nothing that can't solve. And that is a very feminine city, so that was very, very healing for me. But anyways, the point is that what my coming to God moment in the streets of Paris was I was like, I am a single mom. I am not moving my 2 kids out of the house they grew up in. And I need at least 10K coming in at a minimum because I couldn't wake up in the morning, meditate, journal, and work out. My kid, like by then it's 11 o'clock. I get my kids on the bus early in the morning. And then my kids get off the bus at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then what? I'm supposed to play the role of the tutor, play the role of the mom, play the role of the cook. No, it was like, oh no, I'm bringing on the personal assistant full time. I hired a chef. I had a handyman. I was delegating like a master plan.
I remember that.
And it's not to say that you need to do that all the time. I don't actually delegate like that. My lifestyle is totally different, and my sons are also 10 years older, so 17 and 14 now. But at that time, that was a non-negotiable for me. And I knew that there was no way that I could be the entrepreneur and be a single mother and do all these other things and still pay all the bills.
Yeah.
And so what I experienced firsthand through that was the support that gave me by me. And it wasn't like I just magically manifested 10K. It was like a small build up to get to that point of having all those support people. But it was in my intention field. I mean, I had a list in front of my computer, and it was like, I don't know who the handyman's going to be, but I know I need one. So the intention was already set out there. But who that allowed me to be as a woman, you know, I always had this concept where it's like, you should have kids later on in life and travel early on. And it was like, I was traveling way more when I was single than ever before, and even have since then. Like, you know, I've been to Iceland, Mexico, we went to Mexico. Like, I've traveled all over the place because I've had that level of support. So for someone to scale and actually have a profit margin, number one, I see two mistakes happening. The first mistake I see happening in a lot of cases, and this is again where you have to be brutally honest with yourself, is a lot of people, and we watched this firsthand, they're like, oh, I'm a business owner, I need a VA. It's like, no, you don't. You need to get your hands dirty. Yeah. If you don't have the profit coming in on a consistent basis, what the hell do you need a VA for? Yeah. And so a lot of times people will delegate too soon.
Okay, let's just talk about this. All right, I came back into my coaching business in 2017.
Yep.
So I worked for the company we worked for 2013 through the end of 2016. Came back into this business January of 2017. I told this story a lot. I did close to $500,000 in revenue, like closed sales that year, single-handedly. By myself.
Totally.
I had zero overhead, except I was in a coaching program and I was working with a coach. So I had that payment every single month. I think I invested like $35,000 that year with my coach. And I had this little stint of time where I was like trying to do Facebook ads, probably too soon, because I tried to do it like 6 months into the business, even though I'd already made multiple six figures. But when I hear people talk about, you know, they're making like $30,000 to $50,000 a year and they're talking about hiring people, I was like, how about you go make $250,000 and you get really good at sales and you get really good at your message? Because if you are not good at lead generation, if you are organic lead generation, if you do not know what your message is, if you have not worked on really honing your craft as a coach, if you have got shitty programs that you're delivering, sorry, not sorry, that's a big issue with me in this coaching industry. If you have not, you know, you don't have to master sales, but you need a marketing process in place. You need a sales process in place. You need a lead gen process in place. And you need to know it is working before you go hire a bunch of people. Because what's happening is people go hire people and they don't have those systems in place and their pipeline goes dry and then they're not making sales. And now you either have to reduce the hours of these people or you have to fire these people or you can't pay your bills to your team. One of the things I'm really proud of, we hired 5 people last year at the very end of the year. I have been able to pay everybody, every single payment, even when shit hit the fan with the pandemic and COVID. Well, that is something I am super proud of because business gets bumpy at times, and you've got to know that you can pay your people. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and I'm a prime example. I mean, we were in Mexico when I was having issues with selling a lot of courses that I had.
Yeah.
And I remember you said to me, you're like, you know, this marketing company that you hired, they're only creating chaos for you.
Yeah.
They're like, everything was so overcomplicated. It was ridiculous. And I think I was in for like 50K at that point.
Yeah.
By the end of 2017, I had blown about 100K on marketing, Facebook ads, all this stuff. None of it worked.
Yeah.
None of it worked.
And then, I remember that. That was like 2 years.
It was like a year. Yeah, it was like a year. And I had to pay my VA. So as of now, I have still my one VA that I've had for a really long time, who's amazing and can pretty much do way more than any VA I've ever met. but I had to pay her thousands of dollars to get my content off of all of these different platforms that I was also paying cumulatively $2K a month in maintenance for these automated services.
And I gotta get back.
Yeah, no worries, yeah. But that's basically something that you've really got to pay attention to. And most people, A, haven't done this, and B, they're not teaching this. So when you're going into programs or you're going into mentorship or you're seeing things on the internet and you're thinking, oh, I see someone doing Facebook ads or I see someone doing this. I've really been grateful to work with the mentors that I have worked with over the years. In fact, the mentor I was referencing earlier, who talks about hope and coincidence marketing, he talks about getting back on the entrepreneurial carousel. And I was like, I wish I would have met you a year ago because it would have saved me $100,000. And he in the mastermind program that I was selling at the time, he was teaching that until you are making $25,000 to $35,000 a month consistently for a year, you should not be doing any kind of ads. And that's one of the things that I love that you teach about, because it keeps things simple, it keeps things organic, and it has a great potential for a huge profit margin.
Yeah, my philosophy, and I really stick to this, I don't care what anybody else says, and there are really two schools of thought in this industry. So again, you have to really discern who you're listening to. One school of thought is start using ads like immediately. I have a very different philosophy. I don't think anybody has any business starting ads until they're making at least $25,000 a month consistently for at least 6 months before they do that, because you've got no clue what your message is and you don't have those foundational systems in place. Like, I'm sorry, nobody has that in place when they're making $5,000 a month. Like, you could go get one client a month and be making $5,000 a month and have no system in, like,
and just do private coaching.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question for you, because you've worked on sales teams. You have also kind of developed the actual sales department for companies. What does need to be put in place systematically on the back end so that a sales department, even if it's just one person, even if it's the entrepreneur, or if you just bring like one salesperson on, like, what needs to be in place in that company so that it's functioning and it's working well and sales are being made consistently?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, does this person even have sales experience and sales training? I have the sales mastery course. There's people who have put their sales team through the sales mastery course because they kind of have experience in sales, or they have experience in sales in a different market sector, but not in the coaching market sector. And so until they're trained properly, and again, like all these other market sectors, it's about making the sale, right? It's not necessarily about being of service. In fact, I was just talking with a friend the other day, and she's like, I had 2 people in my program and I couldn't stand them. All they did was bitch and complain. So there's qualifying for the client that needs to occur. So I think what I've always done, whether it's been personal or professional, is whoever is working in your company or in your household, because I actually have a standard operating household procedural manual, is to refine that process. So people need to be memorializing what they're doing. So it's a relationship, right? So it's like, if the person comes in, it's like, what's their level of expertise? And you always want to be hiring someone who knows more than you know, number one. But number two, it's like, well, what kind of a protocol do you want to have? You can't just sit there and be like, you tell me how we're going to run things. Like, you have to be educated ahead of time to know, here's what my spreadsheet for tracking sales generally looks like, because I've been doing it myself. And then the person can come in and you can say, look, I'm always open for feedback. This is a collaborative relationship as things are evolving. But you definitely need to know, statistics about people. Like, generally, where are the people that you're working with coming from? Where are you meeting them? Are they brand new in the coaching industry? I personally don't want to work with people who are brand new in the coaching industry. And I've had that conversation too. So if you're looking at like, where is that person currently, you need to have that information. You need to have an ideal client avatar document. There's another document that I have called Themes and Client Problems. So when you're interviewing someone to come on for your position in your company, you're like, are you familiar with these kinds of problems?
Right.
I mean, if you've only ever sold cars and this person is getting on the phone with someone who is having a nervous breakdown because you're selling a solution to anxiety, like they're not probably going to be well equipped to have those kinds of conversations and really truly be of service. So then as you're evolving, there needs to be weekly team meetings or every other week team meetings. There needs to be employee evaluations. You need to start thinking about an onboarding protocol, an offboarding protocol. Like I've worked with a couple of $1 million companies. They're not in the coaching industry. One of them writes proposals for marketing and engineers professionals. And so she writes proposals for like the military and stuff like that. And she just was at my house before I came here, like a week or two ago for her one of her VIP days. And she has no like onboarding protocol. And it wasn't until I was doing these team workshops quarterly with her team this year that we were like, what do you mean? Like there's no like strengths finder test or human design test or anything like that. And it was showing up in her company. So all of the flaws will always show up in your company when you have team members who aren't on board with your personal development standard protocol. So you need to also be thinking about, well, what do I do? How do I operate as a human being in my life? If I'm someone who values health and wellness, and I value personal and spiritual development, and money mindset consciousness evolving, then you need to make sure that you're bringing people on that are in alignment with that company culture. So I'm probably saying a lot of things that people are like, oh shit, I don't have any of that. You know, like, do you have a company culture written out? Have you been tracking themes in your ideal client's problems? Have you been tracking who your ideal client is and where are they living in the world? I mean, are you an international company? Are you, a company based in the UK? Like, and you primarily work with people, are you charging? Like I had a client that I think now works with you too, and she lives in South Africa, and she's always been charging in US dollars. So to know that stuff is really pertinent.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the importance of lead generation in a company so that you are able to have enough sales conversations and make enough sales to fill your group. I'm pretty sure I'm correct when I say this, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think one time you were working for a particular company a couple of years ago, and they brought you on to do the sales, but there weren't enough leads actually coming in, and the lead generation system wasn't quite built out so that you were actually having enough sales conversations. So speak a little bit about, so when we're talking about like, and I'm kind of getting to this place too, and you and I have had some personal conversations about this for me, but when your group program gets to a certain level, at some point as the leader, you've got to be the one who no longer does the sales conversations. You've got to have somebody else come in and take over the sales conversations and the closing of the sales. And at the same time, you as the company owner, you have to make sure that you are feeding that salesperson enough leads so that quality leads, so that it actually makes it work. So number one, they have enough conversations. Number two, it's worth it for them. But I remember you saying one time, you didn't have hardly like any sales conversations for this particular program. And I remember you telling me that the leads and the lead generation system was just not there.
Nope.
So talk a little bit about, they kind of go together. You can't just have a salesperson like reaching out to like close sales. As a company owner, you've got to have that lead generation system in place and kind of dialed in so that it makes sense for you to bring your salesperson in and really start scaling.
Yeah, and I think it's a hard thing to do as a company. I mean, when I came into that company, there was already another salesperson. So that person's actually still with the company. And this particular funnel that was created, because at this point, this person had made $4 million. And he also used to own an $18 million revenue per year digital marketing ad agency. So all I can say is that this person is an absolute genius when it comes to digital marketing, Google ads, all kinds of different ad aspects of running those kinds of funnels. But basically, They had spent $75,000 on Facebook ads over a 6-month time period. And some of the people we were getting on the phone with, like I talked to one guy who worked at a gas station. I talked to another guy who had a trailer in his parents' front yard. And not that there's anything wrong with that at all. I fully believe that everyone has a divine purpose and no one person is better or worse than someone else. Like everyone actually is programmed with a purpose on our planet. And but they were also not qualified, you know. And so we had started talking with some of his mentors, like Ryan Levesque, and just looking at, do we qualify or don't we qualify? And if we qualify, how do we qualify? So I would say across the board, I believe that you have to have some kind of a qualifying, and that could be as simple as coming on a Facebook Live just like this. And I think someone posted the other day actually about selling on a Facebook Live, so I can touch on that next. But coming on a Facebook Live like this, and just like I just said, I don't really work with brand new coaches. Well, there's a qualifier.
Yep.
You know, I don't know if anyone, you know, ever on this Facebook Live is going to even be interested in working with me. And I don't really care, quite honestly, because I do trust and have faith in, you know, that's the other thing that I think is to just as a quick side note, to trust and have faith that just like you are with your soul partner, Sean, like your clients are also soul partners. They have been divinely contracted to magnetically come to you and be there with you and for you. But yeah, as far as lead gen and lead, you know, automation, that kind of stuff, it is hard. And I don't fault this person at all for, you know, I was in kind of a transitionary phase in my life. I had just bought my dream home with my now husband. And, you know, it was clear that I needed to leave the company because I wasn't really making any money. And it worked out really well because I had done a lot of sales, and then I kind of took off for a year, but I had passive revenue coming in every month from all the sales that I did do along with some private clients. So it worked out great for me because I was moving into my dream house and being present with my kids for the summer. So it just worked out really well. But the point is that as much as you can get it dialed in, it's not, no company and no entrepreneur is ever like, oh, I made a great decision. Like most of the time you learn more from your mistakes, just like I had a $100,000 mistake. And the important thing is for you to accept that unconditionally up front as an entrepreneur, that there are going to be expensive mistakes. But if you don't have like money as a trigger for you, you know, I was talking to Liz about that a while back, and she's like, for people who make money, it's kind of like making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Or like you go to the store, you get bread, you get peanut butter, you get jelly, boom, you're done. It's like, okay, I lost $100,000, no big deal. Go make more money. I made adjustments to my business. I made it more simplistic. So you get it dialed in as much as you possibly can, and you try and gauge things. So maybe you bring a salesperson on for 20 hours to start out with, or 10 hours to start out with. I think the important thing is that you have done enough metrics to try and guesstimate what the fulfillment for that person would be. But it's all about building relationships and building out a pipeline and a system. So it's like, if the organic system is something as simple as paying attention to people, doing some market research, always have market research. You need to constantly be doing market research. I don't care. You don't ever get to any financial point in your business where you're not doing market research, because you're changing, the company is changing, what you're offering is changing, people are changing, the planet is changing, everything's always transitory. And so those a lot of times can then end up becoming someone saying, I'm interested in what you're offering. And really honing your message to, like we've talked about before, be that dog whistle for people to come in. But then the key is also nurturing those leads. So some of the mistakes that I've seen in the industry many, many times is like, well, what's your follow-up protocol? I mean, it's like, how do you not have a follow-up protocol?
Well, even like, I mean, obviously I teach a launch strategy. You know that. You're familiar with the launch strategy. You do the launch strategy as well. And one of the things that I really pay attention to, almost more than during the actual 9-day launch, it's what am I doing in between the launches? What systems do I have in place to be cultivating the relationships with all the people who came through the last launch or the launch before that or the launch before that, who were super engaged, who said they wanted to join, who told me they were, I mean, you're collecting all this data. People are literally telling you, I'm going to join in November, or I'm going to join in the beginning of 2021, or I'm going to be ready to join when. And it's like, those people are not coming back if you do not continue to have conversations with them. If you do not continue to like drip feed them some kind of value, if you do not have some kind of consistent, relatively frequent touch points with them, and you have kind of got that figured out, those people are not coming back. And it doesn't mean that they are not buying from someone else. So just because someone's not buying from you or me does not mean that they are not buying from someone else. In fact, they are buying from someone else. And they are buying from someone else who is building that relationship with them, who is positioning themselves as a leader, who is positioning themselves and really developing that human connection with them. That is a critical part. And lots of times, because of what I teach, people are always asking me questions. They'll get to like day 7 in their launch, and they're like, what can I do to make more sales? I've only made so many sales. And I'm like, well, we should have talked about this 3 months ago.
Runway time.
We should have talked about this months ago, and let's look at how you actually warmed up your audience. How are you nurturing your audience in between every single one of your launches? And it's not just launching where you want to do that. You want to have a follow-up system in place and a nurturing system in place. I don't care if you're doing webinars or if you're selling through email or if you've got a YouTube channel or if you're launching using the Launching Made Easy system that I teach and I use. That has to be in place. That is going to drastically increase the number of sales you're making in your programs like crazy when you nurture in between.
It's imperative. The consistency key. Listen, I've seen so many people out there selling the crappiest of crap.
Oh.
And they're like, people are buying from them like crazy because of one thing, not because of quality, but because of consistency.
Yeah.
So if you can nail that, and you have to find your own rhythm of consistency because everybody is different, but you can't just be like, all right, see you later. I'm going to, Paris for a month and whatever.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'll say is that if you have someone saying, I'll join your program, blah, blah, blah,
right.
blah, either you haven't handled the objection properly or you didn't take a deposit, which is leaving money on the table. So deconstruction is really important, and we used to do that frequently. Mm-hmm. And any company owner has to do that. Even if you're a solopreneur, do deconstruction with yourself. Get the big, Post-it notes out, put them on the wall, and figure out what worked, what didn't work, what would I do differently. Where am I leaving money on the table? That's a big one.
But this is also why in my opinion, it's so important to be working with a coach, to have a mentor, to be in a program, because when we're doing that in our own vacuum, by ourselves, in our home office, in our own mind, you actually do not know which questions to be asking yourself.
So
you do not know what data to be looking at because you're just basing it off of, I don't know, whatever you're basing it off of. And it always like bugs me so much. It bugs me, but it's now more heartbreaking than ever when I have people who are like, oh, I'm just going to go implement this on my own and I'm going to go make a few bucks and then I'm going to come back. And I'm like, good luck. Good luck with that, because you're making all of your decisions typically from the way that you've been trained to make those decisions and from your past decisions and past results from those past decisions. And even when you're well, first of all, most people don't debrief.
No.
Most people don't debrief. They do not deconstruct. They're winging it. And not only do they not know what's not working, but the other thing I notice is that people don't know what actually created the success that they did have. And they cannot duplicate their success because there's no tracking, there's no documentation, there's no deconstruction. And the other thing that's happening with not being able to repeat their success is they're creating, I teach on this a lot, they're creating new offers all the time. And part of this consistency piece and part of this nurturing piece, it isn't about every time you have a creative idea, go create and launch another program, because that is actually a lack of consistency with your message, with your programs. It becomes, you are making it so much harder for yourself to actually build these systems and structures that we're talking about. You're making it so much harder to even create and implement a follow-up system, or to create and implement a sales process from start to finish, a lead generation process. Like, the number of times between the two of us, just in this 1 hour, we've talked about how this stuff is not that easy. Like there's a lot going on. There are a number of things to master, but you can make it more simple for yourself. Yes. You can make it more streamlined for yourself. And that's doing fewer things better, and really allowing yourself and giving your business and you the opportunity to develop these systems and structures and protocols, standard operating procedures, but actually giving yourself a chance to even get it to work in your business. If you can't get it to work at a foundational level, we shouldn't be having a conversation about scaling. You're not going to start having a conversation about scaling in your business until you know what systems are working in place. When you know you've got a program that I call a winner, like Momentum is a winner. Momentum has now been sold and implemented and figured out for the last 14 months. We have a winner on our hands.
It's got a proof concept.
It's got a proof concept. On the delivery side, the marketing side, the messaging side, the ideal client side, and the sales side. So it's now at a point, 14 months in, not 2 months in, 14 months in, where now it's like, okay, now we're actually ready to scale. If we had done it sooner, things probably would have like crashed and burned a little bit. But you've got to give yourself that opportunity to get that running like a well-oiled machine. Now you actually have the capacity and the brain power to even look at what's possible with scaling. And a lot of it really boils down to mindset and leadership.
Totally.
Scaling is a game in your ability to be a leader of your business, of your team, of yourself, of your clients, of your message. It's a lot of it really boils down to leadership.
Yeah, and the issue is that people think that high level of leadership or the whatever it is that you desire is going to come after you make the money, and that's not how it works. You have to be that version of that woman now. That's like, I wasn't like, let me get these people delegated when I needed to make 10K a month. It was like, I need to delegate now and have immense faith and conviction that this is a non-negotiable, and that's when the money came up. So for me, the beautiful thing about women evolving in business is who you get to become as a woman, because if we look at who we've become now compared to those two ladies we knew way back in 2013, whoa, it's a big freaking difference.
Oh yeah. I love what you just said, because, and even the sales pieces, and you and I have talked about the sales of Momentum together the last few months, but I'm making decisions now as it relates to like bringing a salesperson on, hiring more associate coaches. I just had a team meeting yesterday, and I was projecting like bringing on 6 associate coaches, 6 more associate coaches, because I'm looking at what do I need to bring on now so that I'm hitting the goal I have for 18 months from now.
Yes.
And what do I have to put in place now? Not just team, but also processes, structure, systems. Contracts need to change. Policies need to change. You know, I'm getting ready to bring on 6 more people. My policies have to be updated. My boundaries have to actually be updated. But you want to be future casting and future visioneering 12 to 18 months down the road. And what you do today in your business is impacting what your business is going to look like 12 to 18 months from now. And if you want to be scaling 12 to 18 months from now, what actually needs to be put in place today so that is actually happening 12 to 18 months from now?
So I'll give people a tip. I just gave this to one of my clients who's been at the $500,000 mark, and I've worked with her for many years. So we started out, she was at 125. Again, she's not in the coaching industry, which is something I really love doing, is working with people in various market sectors, because it gives me the full spectrum picture for what it looks like to run a company, not just a coaching company, but to run a bunch of different multi-million-dollar companies. So I've been calling her the $1 million leader. And there have been things that she's an elite client, so we work together, you know, for many years, but this year in particular. And she is on the way to $1 million in her company this year. And that is in the middle of all the stuff that's going on, which is amazing. But a lot of what we've talked about has been, there have been times where she's like pissed off and we're on a coaching session and I'm like, well, that's because you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing any longer. So what I told her to do, and I'll tell everyone who's watching this too, it's an easy exercise and it doesn't cost any money, is in the back of every single journal that you begin to write in, and if you're not writing in a journal, then you're really in trouble. but in the back of the journal, you want to have two running lists. One of the running lists is activities and tasks that I need to be partaking or engaging or doing in order to be the fill in the blank dollar leader, okay? The $500,000 leader, the wealthy leader, the $1 million leader, the $2 million leader, whatever it is. And don't jump too far. If you're only making $5K a month right now, put in the $100,000 leader. Because your brain can't wrap itself around. It's not to say you can't do it fast, especially with the right coaching and mentorship. You can, but I'm just saying.
But you got to know what is involved with actually getting to $1 million. And most people have no clue what's actually involved to get your business to $1 million. And most people, when they find out what's involved,
they're like, see you later.
They're like, peace out. Yeah. I'm good with my 50K.
And that's maxing your profit margin. Again, we've both seen people in the industry who have had multi-million-dollar businesses with a negative profit margin, just so you know. Okay, the other list is what tasks, so the first one is what tasks, activities, etc., do I need to be doing in order to be that version of myself? And then what are the tasks that I can no longer do?
In order to get my company to that level.
So Carrie Ann and I were able to develop certain systems and protocols for her company now that it's like if she has a pop-up job, she's not allowed to say yes to it. Yep. She has to send it to her manager.
Yep. Love it.
Because then she would take the job on and then she would work over the weekend and get pissed off. And I'm like, that's not what $1 million leaders do.
Yep.
That's not what $1 million leaders do. Yep. So number one, you need to know what $1 million leaders do, okay? And if you don't know, being here in Structured Freedom Group is a great place to be, of course, but be learning from people who are either on that trajectory and you really know, okay, really run it through your own truth center, because there are so many people who are so full of crap out there. And trust me, I've been on the phone with a lot of them. I mean, people used to fear, I don't know, maybe people do still fear me in the coaching industry because I've been on the sales calls with these people and I've watched it and I know who's full of crap and who's not full of crap outside of my own intuition, which is really spot on.
Oh my goodness. Let's see if anybody has questions. We've had a lot of people on.
So the one, I'll let you look and see if there's questions, but the one question I do remember someone posting on one post that we were cracking up about with all the different pictures we had. She wanted to know, how do you sell from Facebook Lives? Again, I'm going to go back to the whole consistency thing, because here's the thing that happens. Even if you have crappy content, and nobody here has crappy content, right?
Better not.
You need to be consistent. So if you're doing a weekly Facebook Live show kind of thing, the biggest key that people miss, it's like another elephant in the room, right? It's like, ask.
Yep.
Offer. What's this? Everything you do needs a CTA. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what a CTA is, you're also in trouble, and you should get a journal and write down that it means call to action.
Yeah, okay, so there's no questions here, but if anybody is watching this live or if you're catching the replay after the fact, which is amazing, pop your questions into the chat. Rebecca is in this group. She can come in and answer some questions. I can answer some questions. You can tell we like this hot topic. Here's a couple other things about selling from video, because that's something I do a lot of, and it's something I've been doing, and I very intentionally decided when I came back into business in 2017, I was going to use video. And I'll tell you why I decided on video. Number one, I knew that my audience was already used to video. I knew my audience wanted video and they wanted to see video, but specifically they wanted video from me. Because one of my areas, I guess I'd say this is probably one of my zone of geniuses, is teaching. Okay, so if one of my zone of geniuses is teaching and I have a lot of shit to say, and it's actually worth me talking about it, I should be on video. Like, yeah, you can go write. I can write too. I like to write. But if I really want to shine as a teacher, and I know my audience wants to see that from me, it just makes sense to be on video. So I decided that literally like December 31st, 2 days before I launched this Facebook group, I'm literally going to build my entire practice by building a community in a Facebook group, and I'm going to go live. And I'm going to make people my priority. That was my intention, nothing else. I wasn't going to build a website, still don't have one 4 years later. I wasn't going to get fancy photos taken. I've had one photo shoot in the last 4 years. I wasn't going to build out all these I wasn't going to focus on all these tactics. I was going to connect with people. I was going to hone my message based on what they were telling me they wanted, and I was going to darn sure show up all the time with a call to action. Mm-hmm. So I would go live on Facebook, right inside of this Facebook group. You can go to the video section and you can go look back at those early videos I did and see what I looked like back then and what my backdrop looked like back then and how like I looked like I was scared. But man, if I didn't show up and teach, I would have my blue Post-it notes on the wall. I would be the teacher, but I would have a very specific call to action. If you are someone who criteria, and you are ready to do X, Y, and Z, then I want to invite you to send me a private message right now and sign up for an action taker call. Here's what that call is going to look like. And then I would lay out what that person was going to get in terms of what to expect and what that value was going to look like, because nobody's going to get on a call with us if they feel energetically you're just going to try to slimy sell me. They know they're getting on a call to make a decision, but it's all in how your audience is perceiving what you're actually going to do and how you're going to conduct yourself and how you're going to conduct that call with them. So I would tell them what to expect on the call so that they perceived it as and believed that they were going to get some kind of value. And oh, by the way, we are absolutely going to talk about working together in my yada yada program. So they knew that, so that I had people coming to a call with me. My close rate was like 90% because it's because of how I was setting up the call in the video. So you set it up properly so that only people who are actually like, I'd say 90% of the way already there, yes. And they just need that final little 10%. Maybe they have a question for you. Most people I find just want reassurance when they're on a sales conversation, but I wasn't getting anybody on a sales conversation who just wanted to shoot the shit. I wasn't getting people on a sales conversation who just wanted to pick my brain or tell me everything that was going on in their business and then ask me questions about what they should do in their business. Those people aren't going to buy. They're not ready to buy. They're not even coming onto the call with the anticipation to buy. I knew I wanted people coming onto a call who had already decided in their mind before they got on a call with me that they wanted to work with me. And I did it through video. So I hope that gives you a little bit of direction there. The other thing I'd say too that makes it much easier to sell through video is what we've already talked about. The majority of the people who buy from me and they join my programs, it's because I have a relationship with them. So because I'm building a relationship with them, then they hear me on a call, have a call to action, or on a video, have a call to action. And it's not like I'm a stranger where now they need to get on a call with me for an hour to find out if I'm actually a good fit for them. And I always have found it so interesting over the last 4 years, especially, how many clients I've had who complain and almost look at it like it's a bad thing, that the only people buying from them are people who have already experienced them and have a relationship with them. And I'm like, who do you think is going to buy from you? Strangers aren't going to buy from you. So of course it's going to be people who have some kind of rapport with you. That's why your number one intention every single day in your business, yes, you want to be generating leads all the time, and you want to have a nurturing process or multiple nurturing processes in place, because that's what's actually happening. I'll give you an example. There are a number of people who were in our last launch who will definitely join us in November. And those are my clients to lose. They're my clients to lose, because here's the truth. Anybody who has in their mind that they're going to join our program in November, they're going to go buy something. They will go join someone's program, whether they go buy a few $1,000 courses or they go join a program for $15,000. They will go do it, and they will do it sometime in the next 90 days, okay? And it's my job to stay in touch with those people, whether that looks like following them on Facebook and genuinely engaging with them on their own posts, sending them private messages, sending them voicemails periodically, asking them how they're doing, cheering them on, because that person's going to remember that. I doubt if that many coaches have a list of names where they're actually genuinely interacting with people who have expressed interest in working with them. So it's not just showing up and selling on video that does the whole job all by itself. It's it's the total package of the energy, of the right messaging, of the criteria, of really setting up what the call is going to look like. So the proper positioning of that, but the biggest thing is your ability and your willingness to nurture people in between.
Well, and I got to say the timing too, because you brought up a good point.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was like towards the end of 2014 when we were part of this one program and we were having a live event. And a month before is when we were prompted to ask people if they wanted to renew. And all these people were like, I bought a program like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So knowing the timing of when it is appropriate for you to be doing anything, pitching, knowing the timing of nurturing in the pipeline is really critical and important too. So Melissa's question is about, you know, do you always have a call to action? So I'm going to go back to two things. Number one is, what is your intention? And number two is, my firm belief and my firm experience is that we are always selling. So we need to stop thinking that this sale is like the meeting at the altar, if you will. Like there's a lot that goes on into a wedding happening, right? So most people think about sales in that way. They see that they're finally getting on the phone or a video conference or in person with somebody that they have the potential to sell to, and it's their moment at the altar, if you will, okay? And that's not how it works. You are always selling, and if you operate in your life as if you are always selling, you will go to yoga class ready to sell, you will go to the grocery store ready to sell, and what I mean about that, that's because he's my sales partner.
I know, like closers of all time.
Totally. I sold a woman a package at my pool from Dubai like 2 years ago. It was like, okay, I'll take your credit card. But and I also have that intention. I'm like, when I travel, I'm generally more in an expansive state. So why wouldn't I sell more stuff? But my point is that you go prove this to yourself. You go prove that you're always selling, okay? If you have a family, when you have a thought, and I'm like this, where I'm like, you know, I think I'd like to go out to dinner tonight. I don't want to cook. Or, you know, whatever. I'm selling my family on the idea of being taken out to dinner and having my husband make reservations for us, right? So that's what I mean by you're always selling. So if you start seeing your life through the lens that you're always selling, then you recognize everything is a negotiation. Everything is a compromise and a negotiation. And now more than ever, we're seeing that everybody has an agenda, right? And so when you pay attention to your own agenda, right? So Melissa, when you're posting, when you're doing, sometimes my agenda in my Facebook group or on my personal profile or wherever I'm promoting or posting, my agenda is to really enrich someone's life. And I don't feel like I want to have a call to action. I feel like I'm going to leave it to God to allow the prompting to be organically brought about in that person if we're meant to work together. Because again, I have faith and trust that we'd all have soul contracts with everyone that shows up in our lives. So there's that. But yes, I would say err more on the side of ask for the sale. Ask for the sale. You and I have had that conversation so many freaking times that you're probably not asking enough. If you're wondering, am I asking too much or am I not asking, or am I asking too much or am I not asking enough? Most of the time, you're not asking enough, but it's important for you to know that you're always selling.
Here's a good example, and I'm thinking of, because Julie Ritchie is here, and Julie's got a question too. We'll answer that, Julie. But Julie, you're such a good example of that. If you remember, I think it was in August in Momentum. Julie is in Momentum. She's one of our superstars in there. She even posted here.
She made 13K in the last 30 days.
13K in the last 30 days. So amazing, Julie. And had a fabulous launch I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago as well.
And we've known, I think I just want to say this too. We've known Julie for what, like 5 years now? And I mean, what a gorgeous transformation. I love it.
So I think it was August, Julie, and I made a post in Momentum because September we were totally focused on sales, booking sales calls, asking people to work with you, closing sales. And so in August, I said, everybody do an audit of yourself in the category of sales in your business. And then one of the questions I asked was, how many times in the last 30 days did you ask someone to work with you? Like, how many times did you have a call to action? And I remember Julie, she was like, that was so interesting for me to go back and look over the last 30 days. And Julie, I remember in the comment section, you were like, I had 10 asks, 10. And I remember one of your awarenesses about that was, that's not enough. So out of 30 days, it's kind of like giving yourself an opportunity, like a third of the month to make a sale, which is it's not a very high ratio, right? So one of the biggest learnings was just from the coach asking the question and say, hey, go look at it like this so that you can prepare yourself for the next month. Julie is an amazing client, so she went and did it. And she's just skyrocketed since then because it was such an awareness of, wow, I thought I was asking so many more times than I was, but when I go back and I count, it just quite simply wasn't, it just wasn't, I just wasn't asking enough. And I think lots of times people think they have like, something's wrong with me and nobody wants to work with me. It's like, so much of it is, we've got to be a smart CEO and a smart business person and look at the metrics. And it's like, just go ask double the amount of times in September and you're probably going to make more money. So let's answer Julie's question.
Yeah, I've got it. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. I got another exercise for you. All right, so basically you can do this on a scratch piece of paper. You can get a big thing up on the wall, however you want to do it, but you're going to make a cross down the center. And at the top of the left-hand side, you're going to, and it probably shows up opposite here because we're actually not sitting. I'm sitting here, and Megan's sitting here. We're showing it up in the mirror image, but it's all good. At least we know where we're sitting. So anyways, at the top of the one side, you're going to put UB for unique brilliance. And this is an exercise you need to be repeating. We talked about this earlier about who do I need to become? And on the other side, you put NUB, not uniquely brilliant at. And I want you to include personal and professional things because I would never have broken into six figures that year had I not had the personal assistant, the personal chef, the everything that I had to have as a single parent. In order, my two goals at that time period, well, actually, they've never changed, is to show up as consciously and to serve as greatly as I can in my business and to have conscious connected time with my family. And that's my only two goals ever. And everything else that I delegate has to support those two goals of mine. And so you have unique brilliance, UB, not unique brilliance, NUB. And then on the bottom, you put IP for income producing, and you put NIP for non-income producing. I guarantee you everything you put in that unique brilliance category is going to be income producing. You're not like, oh, I cleaned my house and found 10 cents. Like, no. So that's how you figure out who to delegate to. And then when you look at your calendar combined with this chart that you've filled out, you'll be able to identify, well, if I go and I delegate house cleaning and landscaping and grocery running and errand running and whatever else, that's going to free up 10 hours on my calendar. And so then I don't need to go hire a VA because I will go do X, Y, and Z. Now, the other thing that Julie talked about is the fact that this person that is helping her is more of a community manager and also like she helps with some lead gen, which is awesome, but she doesn't do tech stuff. Now, my Trisha, she does all that. But
hey, she's my Trisha too.
I know, I'll always call her my Trisha. Yes, we're always selling. But anyways, the point is this, like I did all that stuff. When I first started my company back in 2010, I was wearing the hats. I stayed up until like 3 a.m. I learned HTML code, CSS, and I would wake up and take my kid to nursery school.
Just, oh, by the way, every business owner does it all by themselves in the beginning.
Totally.
All of us did.
Not all. There have been people where the parents are like, oh, here's $40,000 to start your company.
Well, true.
But anyways, those people are maybe not around anymore. They don't have as much skin in the game as we do when we're willing to change the oil in our cars. So anyways, the point is that you will know, like, I'm not interested. So either you can't do it, like I can't do the tech, I'm not willing to learn, and I have the money, Or in my case, I know how to do it, but I'm never interested in doing it ever again. I do not want to go into the back end of anything and fix boxes and do HTML code. Has it come in handy as I format stuff? Sometimes when Trisha's not available on the spot, absolutely. But I don't even look in my own Google Drive anymore. I'm not even kidding. I messaged Trisha the other day and I was like, where's the copy for this sales page? And I'm like, as soon as I message her, I think I could go look, but I don't want to look. Who cares? She knows the Google Drive better than I do.
Right.
So combined with your calendar, what you can do, and just because you can do it doesn't mean it's your unique brilliance. We can all clean a house. We can all clean a toilet. But when we start looking at...
I'm actually not very good at cleaning.
There you go. You got to know how you want to invest your time. Like when we moved to our new house, Jack was like, oh yeah, the riding mower came with it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to see how long this lasts for, right? One time.
Wow.
Well, because on the weekend, it's like, do you really want to spend 2 hours or do you want to spend 2 hours as a family?
Right.
So, and that's really what, to me, what becoming a wealthy leader is all about, is what your business has the ability to afford you abundantly in your life.
Yeah, and I would, part of your question, Julie, was I don't want to hire too soon. You do also want to be a really smart CEO, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that we've both seen, and I don't think this has ever like happened to me, but I've seen it a lot, where people will hire, but they don't actually have systems in place to continue bringing in money. And so they haven't actually mapped out the revenue that's going to come in the future to pay for the things that they hired. And that's one of the things that some of the mentors who I follow, who have built multiple 7-figure businesses, and they talk about the reality of really building a business and being a smart CEO, that is one of the things that they teach on so much. And it's, yes, you need to be delegating, you need to be hiring. The biggest mistake people are making is that they have no clue what that revenue plan is going to look like in the future to be able to cover what they just hired. And then they find themselves trying to decide, am I going to pay my rent or am I going to pay my team? Don't put yourself in that position. Be smart, look ahead, map out the revenue plan. It's also why you need to keep your business model very simple and be really consistent in creating those machines in your business, instead of like, every time I have a new idea for a program, I think I'm going to go sell it and all these people are going to buy it. It doesn't work that way.
Well, and also having a trial period. And this is where solopreneurs do not think like company owners. And that's a really big problem, is I am not interested in working with any VA where I have to buy a package or X amount of hours. Like, I don't work that way. And I've always taken a stand for that. And I think a lot of people, that when they start interviewing people, and it's like, that's fine. If that's how this particular VA wants to run their company, there's a dime a dozen VAs. We all know that. And so really going into it with like, well, before we take this a step further, just so you know, there will be a 2-week trial period. And then I'll evaluate whether I want to continue working with you. Mm-hmm. That is how a CEO operates.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. I think we can close it down.
Sounds good.
Close it down for the day. You've got your own Facebook group. You've got your own business. Where can people find you and connect with you?
RebeccaSatori.com. My name's in here, I think. And then my group is Quantum Leap Your Business.
And you do a show in there every week?
Oh, I do 4 shows a week.
You do 4 shows a week?
I do 4 shows a week.
On sales?
Sales, money, and then we have like a map out your success weekly planning hour.
You do like an hour 4 times a week? Mm-hmm. Oh, good heavens.
I have a book club on Thursdays.
Oh.
Yeah, book club is on Thursdays.
What book are you reading?
The Abundance book. And then I just bought It's Not Your Money by Trisha Silver. So that's what we're doing.
Oh, nice. Very cool. So go connect with Rebecca there, and we will have to bring you back on to talk all things
do that.
Awesome. Cool. If you are, thank you, Julie. You're both amazing and the real deal. Love you, ladies. Awesome. We love you too. What was I going to say? I don't remember. I know what I was going to say. If you're here live or if you're watching the replay, want to speak to our replay viewers, and you have questions for us about anything that you've heard, pop that in. Rebecca and I will probably be around and we can answer any of your questions. And then we will be back here again next week. I go live for the Momentum with Megan show every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Put it on your calendar because sometimes we bring in guests like Rebecca. Sometimes it's just me. We're talking all things sales, launching, marketing, simplicity in your business, really working smarter, not harder. So that is every single week right here inside of the Structured Freedom for Impact Driven Coaches Facebook group. And then go ahead and mark your calendars because we are doing our next Launching Made Easy workshop starting on Monday, November the 16th. I can't believe it's just a month away. So every time we do it, it gets better and better. We always elevate what we're teaching because I'm launching all the time. I'm building a team all the time. We're always learning what's working with our clients. I think literally in the last 4 weeks, I've had 25 clients launching following our process. It was like so crazy. So we're always learning. We're always elevating our content. So even if you've been 5 times before, you're going to see and hear some things that are a little bit different. So go ahead and put it on your calendar. The week of November 16th, we will be back here for the Launching Made Easy workshop, and you'll be able to start registering for that in the next couple of weeks. Oh, Maki. What's up, Maki? Good to see you. Awesome, everybody. I think we're going to go grab lunch. I'm hungry. My stomach is growling at me. All right.
Bye,
everybody. Have a fab week.